Hi guys, this is Veerashankara. Today let's talk about Spring Boot 3. So it was released in November 2022. So there are a couple of new features. So let's talk about that. So there are major changes in Spring Boot 3. So the baseline support for Spring Boot 3 is Java 17. Let's say if you still want to use, let's say Java 8 or 11 before Java 17 version, so Spring Boot 3 doesn't support. So you will have to degrade your Spring Boot to 2.x version. So I hope you guys understand. So the baseline support for Spring Boot 3 is Java 17. And the second feature, basically, there is a support for Jakarta. Before Java, the older version of Spring Boot 2.x, let's say if you are using the Spring Data JPA, so let's say I want to have an ID annotation at the rate ID, so that is going to be Java X package. So now from Spring Boot 3, so the package is changed from Java X to the Jakarta. So that is one of the change. And another one is the problem detail. So problem detail will see that in the demo. And the fourth feature is the GraalVM support. So we will have a separate video on the GraalVM. GraalVM basically, it runs faster, to run the applications faster using the GraalVM. So it's kind of a JVM. So it's provided by the Oracle. So there are a lot of advantages if you are using the GraalVM. So we'll talk about that in a separate session. So now let's talk about what is a problem detail. So assume that we are writing a custom exception handlers in our Spring Boot application. So before Spring Boot 3 version, let's say if you are writing your custom exceptions, so basically we know we are going to have a exception class. So assume that I'm writing a custom exception class as the no data exception, and which extends the runtime exception, and I just have a message, and I'm going to create a setter getter toString, let's say a constructor. So that's a no argument constructor and all argument constructor. Now, if I wanted to throw the custom exception, assume that in my implementation class, so I'm writing a patch method. In the patch method, so before we update, I'm going to check whether that particular account number is exist by making a call to the repository.find by account number. So if the account does not exist or not present, so I wanted to throw some custom exception to the caller. Who is the caller here? The client application or whoever is going to invoke my API. So they are the client. So we have to throw an exception as a no data exception. So I wanted to display this particular message, account number does not exist. So how, if you're not writing any custom exception handler in Spring Boot, so it doesn't give the proper error message in the client side. Basically, we get a 500 error. To make it as a proper error message or to throw the proper error, so we need to write a custom exception handler. So basically, we are going to write the REST controller advice class. So in the REST controller advice, so for every exception type, we have to write a separate method. So for example, since I wanted to throw the no data exception, so I'm going to write the method name as a handle no data exception. So as I mentioned before Spring Boot 3 version, so basically if you want to write a custom exceptions, we have to write a separate class. So let me show you the separate class is like, we are going to have a separate class. So let's say error detail. So in the error detail, so I'm going to write what is the error message, right? And what is the code? If you want any additional parameters like a status, timestamp, any other parameters, we will have to write this particular error details class. And accordingly, so in the exception handler method, so even in the Spring Boot 2.x version, so to write a custom exception handler, we have to write a handler method. So that should be annotated with the @exception handler and what exception that we are going to handle it. So that we have to specify here. So in case of line number 12, the return statement should be response entity of error detail if you are using the Spring Boot 2.x version. So in Spring Boot 3.x version, so they have come up with a new solution, the ready-made class. So that's a problem detail. So the problem details provides a lot of parameters. So if you want to see what is there in the problem details, so you just go and check the problem detail. Yeah, if you see here, the problem detail has a title, status, detail, and the URI instance. And also we do have a properties. So it's a map. So basically they already have a solution. So what should be displayed in the response when there is an exception? So instead of we write our own error detail, so we are going to use this problem detail, so which is coming from the WARG Spring Framework HTTP problem detail. So now the error detail is not required. I'm going to remove that here. So now what is that we do? So in the handle exception, so we have to specify for which exception we are going to handle it. And instead of error detail, so we are going to return the problem detail. It has a method for status and detail because I wanted to have a status code in the response as well as with some details. So here the status is just instead of 500 error or any other status code, I'm just going to give as a 400. That's a bad request. And the message. So what is the message that we are going to get here? Since in our implementation class, so we are writing the in the constructor. So the exception in the node data exception constructor. So we are passing the message as the account number does not exist. So whenever we hit, whenever we try to update for a invalid account number, let's say that account number does not exist in the database. So we are going to get this message, account number does not exist. So now let me show you the demo. So this is my update patch method. So here I'm passing the invalid account number, which is not exist in the database. So now if I'm going to hit this, see here, so we are getting the message with all the necessary details. What is the type and what is the title and status and detail, whatever the error message that we are passing it, and what is the instance, nothing but what is the URL, right? And the status code. So whatever you see here, that highlighted one, so this is the status code. Basically the front-end team or whoever is going to consume, they will be considering. So when they are making a call to our APIs. So hope you guys understand the Spring Boot 3.x features. If you like this video, please do subscribe.